Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Bokonjre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, hey, reliable information, history, ooh, talking about culture, yeah, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the new month of March. This is a debate, and you can be part of the debate by joining. And today we got, for the first time, we got our first two people on the stage. I'm watching from Banga City, Bong County. Ooh, welcome to all of our friends in Bong County. You know, the Bassa people and the Bong people, we got a lot in common. So when you say Bong County, we are all with you. And then we got David S. Boyle Jr., falling from Nimba County. Wow, all the heavyweights are in the house, Bong and Nimba. Not even Monserrato or Grand Bassa, but the two biggest dogs in the house, in the country, are in the house. Let me welcome our chief compatriots, Mr. Joseph Tao. I see the background is so beautiful. You want to make me, I'm actually feeling homesick. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Mr. Nambe, and hi to our fellow, to our viewers. Yeah, the two counties that are under that's the two counties CMC trying to win. So we'll see how it goes.
All right, now you're not start a war. Let me welcome Victor Nambe. They fought from Nimba and Bon County, Nimba, then all of a sudden now Lofa County is in the house, and then Monserrato is in the house. Hey, if you are from Grand Bassa County, or you are from Maryland County, is that River G, Maryland County, or you from
No,
River G, right?
River G is somewhere
Maryland,
else.
Maryland.
Okay. If you are a stepchild from Maryland County, from way out there, Bougainville somewhere, we need Maryland County to be in the house. Welcome, Victor Nambe.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. It's good to be here, Mr. Tao. Thanks for coming in as well. Let me welcome our listeners as well. And like you said, happy new month. Also, happy new time of the year. We're now 1 hour ahead. So now Liberia is 4 hours instead of 5 hours ahead of us. So people in Liberia know this. When it's about 1 o'clock or when it's about 7 o'clock on your side, it's only 3 o'clock or so, I think, on our side, So just be considerate, when you're calling so that, you don't wake people out. And it's not even all of us. Some people are right now, they're 7 hours behind you, like the guys on the West Coast in places like Arizona and the rest of it. But it is good to be here. Happy Sunday to all.
Great. When we were growing up, the different counties had great choirs, but one of the best choirs out of Liberia have always come from Johnsonville. They used to call them the Johnsonville Singers. So if you are from Johnsonville, you have a great tradition there. Pennsylvania is in the house. It's all right. Pennsylvania is in the house. Theodosia. She says, if you come from Grand Boswell, you will not leave Pennsylvania behind. So Pennsylvania is in the house. Thank you for tuning in. The time has just changed. They say, fall back 1 hour. And then you gain your hour back when you spring forward. So since we are in the spring, we have gone 1 hour ahead. So if you were accustomed to seeing us 4 o'clock, wherever you are, it is now 5:21 p.m. here on the East Coast. And those of us in the South, we will say it's 4:21 Miami time. And if you're on the Northeast, I guess it's the same thing.
Yeah.
If you're in the Southwest, let me go down to Mr. Tower. Mr. Tower, you are in Houston. What time it is in Houston?
Central Time. We are in Central Time. It's 3:21.
Okay, you are in Central Time. It's 3:21 Central Time in Houston. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are tuning in from, let us know so we can send a shout out to your folks. We got strong representation from Bon County, Nimba County, Monserrato County, Pennsylvania, and Florida, and Houston. So we are doing very well. Great time. Everything is going well. We have a lot going on in the Republic of Liberia. We are going to talk about international issues, beginning with the war in Iran. We are going to talk about impact of the war. Who are those? Massachusetts is in the house. Ooh. The blue-blooded laborers from Massachusetts are in the house. So we got Massachusetts. We're in the blue states now. Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. They are all in the house. We also have people from the South. the red blue South, Texas, in the house. And we talk about the real red state of my home state of Florida. We are in the house, well represented. So you can't mess with us, man. We are balanced. Down the line, we are working on a special. A few months ago, I was chosen by some folks to serve on the presidential campaign of Venancio in Mozambique. So I am working with their team so we can have him on, so we can have, hopefully we can have a joint platform. The folks from the closing argument, Focus on Liberia, and other platforms that want to get involved, so we can have ourselves an international flavor. We are going to have a team of Portuguese speakers to interpret for us, to broadcast for us in Portuguese, for our brothers and sisters in that area that speak only Portuguese. So you see how we are expanding. Our horizon is bigger, is wider than any other platform. It's not all about cursing mom and gossiping and about Liberia. We want to have a world view. We want to see how other people are thinking, what's going on beyond the borders of Liberia. How are they solving their own issues? Education, healthcare. We're going to be discussing those things as time goes on, and we would like you to be a part of it. Because when this gentleman comes on, he wants to be the president of Mozambique. What are the issues that are affecting us in Liberia? What do we have in common? I spoke to him today, and we were talking about women's issues, the right of women. How are they dealing with women, girls, education, science, technology in Mozambique? It'd be very interesting to hear some of the answers, how they are dealing with it. And then our brothers in Angola came along. So now we have Angola and Mozambique. So we are bringing that into our sphere. We're going to be talking about West Africa, South Africa. How are we dealing with these issues? So let me welcome Mr. Tao. Let's talk about, we're going to go to this issue. We're going to go to it in depth. But will it interest you to see or hear how our brothers and sisters are on the other side of the earth deal with some of the similar issues that we are talking about? How are they dealing with those issues that have bedeviled us for so long? What would be your interest if you had the presidential candidate here? What are some of the things you would like to know about issues?
Well, like I think the mistake we've made based on the indoctrination of Africans across the continent is that somebody in Mozambique, what happened in Mozambique does not affect us. What happened in Sierra Leone does not affect us. What happened in Ghana does not affect us. But something that happened in Spain affect us. Something that happened in America affect us. Anything that happened in China affect us. And that is the mind of a people who have been indoctrinated to not know where their interest is. They think that everybody else's interest is theirs. And that's the problem we have. So whatever that you see of facing Liberia, that's the same problem. The root of what causing our problem in Liberia is the same as it is across the continent. So the discussion that we are going to be having, or that the presidential candidate is going to have, or the problem that they're trying to solve, is the same problem we're trying to solve in Liberia. Others taking over your resources, trying to determine how you should live, trying to tell you what form of government you should have, how you should deal with your children, how you should deal with your women, how you should deal with parents, how you should even deal with your forests and the animals that are in those forests. It's the same thing. Taking away your right and your ability to self-determine, because that is the only way they can claim themselves as the first word for them to benefit and continue to dominate you. And any African, anywhere that want to believe that they were put on this earth to be instructed by other men who wear the pants one leg at a time. It's sad, but that is what we have. So they're dealing with the same thing.
Thank you. Let me welcome Dr. Booty. Dr. Booty, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gavin. Great to be here.
Great. It's a Namwe. Brother Tao has a different way of looking at our issues or issues that have bedevil us and continue to do so. He has flipped it upside down on its head. Whether we discuss it from the economic standpoint, whether we discuss it politically, it means absolutely nothing as long as we have the Western, something he called the colonial idealism, is an albatross around our neck, and he thinks nothing we can do to free ourselves unless that's the dangerous piece that he cannot come away. What do we replace what we have? What do we replace it with? Your thought.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a very deep hole that we've dug ourselves in to dig ourselves out to self-determination. But it can be done. I mean, I don't disagree with him. I think there are a lot of pieces that need to fall in place. But I always say, I think it falls on the leadership to lead us out of it. Because most of the decisions that need to be taken have to be taken at the leadership level. How do we turbo and others used to call it, tighten our belt, but how do we stop the bleed? I think we are hemorrhaging and we are still finding ways to bleed ourselves out. I think that is, where the problem is. I think Alice Cummings has indicated, I haven't heard this from Musa Belete, but I think we are now capable of running our budget up to our writing a budget of $3 billion now. I think it was Alice Cummings who was the first who said we could take it to $1 billion. So now we are at 1.2. So the point is, the money can be found locally, I believe. But right now, our national expenditure pattern is like a sifter and water. You keep putting the water in the sifter, and you expect the sifter to catch the water. It's going to be difficult. So yeah, I believe we can lead ourselves out of this dependency syndrome and begin to do things that. So that is the savings part, and then our whole attitude, to work, to agriculture. We have a land. Right now I think it's raining in Liberia now. It rains in Liberia almost, I don't know, maybe 2/4, 3/4 of the year, out of the 12 months, I think maybe about, 8 of the months or so, it rains. Like we have so much rainwater is the point I'm trying to make. And then we have so much sun, So we are blessed in immeasurable ways. But we need to find a way to utilize, all of this blessing. I think we're taking it for granted and we continue to look outside for help when help is right under our feet. So coming back to, what is happening in the Middle East, yes, whenever any such thing that's happening now happens in the Middle East, the first casualty is always the oil. Then the rest of the rippling effect begins to cascade, towards everything else. And right now, you and I here, I mean, the price of oil has jumped by maybe pretty close to 50% at the pump. The barrel of oil now, I think, is over $90, and I believe the internationally acceptable ceiling is $90. Once we cross that threshold, it's difficult to pull back. So that's where we are. And so, as I pass it on, let me welcome Dr. Booty. But as I pass it on, I will encourage those of us listening, if you haven't read the letter to the president from the Honorable Musa Asambelete, uh, proffering advice based on his experience, non-political, very devoid of politics. He's just advising what to anticipate, what we could do to mitigate what is going to come. It is going to come. It's like a rock right now rolling down the hill. We need to take measures now to brace ourselves so that we can cushion the impact. So that letter I also shared on my page. You can take a look at it. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like Musa ability, but I think what he's saying there, is something that I hope will be given some thought if some of those things have not been done. But this war is going to, if people don't prepare themselves, it's going to cause all kinds of immeasurable hardships to Liberians. I mean, everyone around the world now is already feeling the impact, and it's going to go on for a while.
Excellent, excellent. Fixed Electronics says it is 1:34 in Seattle, Washington. Excellent. And we are looking at, we are talking about issues that affect Dr. Booty. Let me welcome James M. Sumo Jr. He's watching us from Wood Camp. Now let's go to the doctor here. Let's talk about Mr. Tower is saying until we get rid of this colonial quote unquote system, we are bound to remain this way. So my question is, should we throw the baby out with the bathwater or do the China approach? Use the system, study the system, tweak it to benefit you, and then become competitive and become respected. That's my view. Your view on Honorable Tao's concept of scratching the whole thing and starting from zero.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gavin, for the question. Look, I think I tend to agree sometimes with Mr. Tao. I'm not sure if I will agree with him today, but I'll say what my opinion is, and then he will determine whether or not we've agreed. But I think, look, the situation in Iran is having an impact on everyone. And as Liberians, and as Mr. Nangbe suggested, our leaders are supposed to be putting in place the relevant procedures proactively to make sure, because whether we like it or not, we now live in a globalized world, right? We've seen it with Ebola. We've seen it with COVID. Anything that happens in one part of the world affects everywhere. All right, so we can't get away from that. You can't be an isolationist in a world that is interconnected. All right, we now need to learn how to navigate this world, and what that means is that when these things happen, you need to understand there will be shocks that will affect Liberia because we're very dependent on imports for everything. Right, what we should be doing in these kind of times is learning from the fact that we are that exposed to these kind of shocks, and developing the framework or frameworks that can help us to withstand these kind of shocks. For example, if it is true that Liberia has oil, then the government right now and previous governments, going back to President Sirleaf, even though she says she got nothing to apologize for, Omar said get drafted, but we'll leave that one for another day. I think she should have put in place when they started looking at the oil situation, start putting in place the infrastructure to be able to refine oil in Liberia, so that when we get it out of the ground, we can do the refinery right there. And then for Liberia, the price of gasoline and diesel can be way cheaper than we having to import them. Because basically the framework we have now is that some Western company, mostly from the US, is going to come and drill the oil, take it to their country, refine it, and then bring it back to us, right? And sell it to us at very, very high prices, right? And that is not what we should be doing. Similarly, in the agriculture sector and other sectors, by now, since 2003, Liberia should have had different frameworks in place in terms of food production and to help us withstand these kind of shocks. We don't have it. So I believe that for now, stockpiling is one way that we can try and deal with it if we can get access to the product, right? So we can stockpile, so that we can maintain level of supply on the market in Liberia until such a time that the Gaiman and his Republican cronies in the U.S. decide that this is not where we should be going as a world. But at the end of the day, we know that's not going to happen. We know that what will happen is that when there is any shortage of petroleum products on the Liberian market, the so-called elites in Liberia will be the ones going there, harassing people to get out of their way. Our honorable, I sort of follow my tankers, will be the nonsense that we start to hit. Unfortunately, the system we have right now, and this is where maybe I agree with Mr. Towell, allows that to happen. That you've got a bunch of individuals who do not merit to be called honorables. Because the things they do are not honorable at all. I gave you an example. I was talking to someone recently. The unemployment rate in Liberia is very, very high. Mr. Tao and I were on the show last Sunday, and we mentioned the fact that what he mentioned, because he's got experience of it, that opening a business in Liberia takes almost 6 months, right? And then once you open a business, you have to pay tax, even though you've not made a profit. And when you got there, you have to go in the bank account because you need some flex receipt. Whereas here in the UK, I started a consultancy business in 2022. I registered the business on the 1st of November. On the 2nd of November, I had my registration certificate booked electronically. They don't even put it in the post. They send it to you electronically, so you're ready to go. I went to the bank within a couple of days. The account's open, and we've been trading for the past 3 years. And until and for me, this is where my focus. And I will be reaching out to you, Mr. Towell, at some point this week for us to try and collaborate on something. But we need to try and push the government of Liberia through the legislature and other institutions to make it easier for people to register businesses in Liberia and do business, because that is the way that we withstand some of these shocks. So if you had a situation in Liberia where petroleum importation or refining of petroleum products were not as monopolized as it is, then you have more competition, you have more stock, you have more ability to withstand the kind of shock that we will experience because of the war in Iran. And the only way we do that is to make doing business easier. All of these World Bank and IMF regulations that are making it harder for our people, overtaxing our people, and making it so difficult for people to establish businesses, we need to get rid of those things. And again, this is where I agree with Mr. Tao. We need to set systems in place that benefits us, that creates jobs, that create opportunities for us to have the ability to withstand the shocks that we are seeing or will expect to see soon.
Let me go to Mr. Nangwe. Mr. Nangwe, what we are seeing here is what makes Western society and capitalism unbeatable is that they are not static. Okay? You grew up in some of these neighborhoods, 20 years, you come back, the whole neighborhood has been transformed. Some you won't even recognize. Buildings that you thought were structurally sound and were supposed to be static will be gutted out and a new neighborhood is up. If it doesn't work, they will change it and it will work. So here we are, instead of throwing capitalism out, why aren't we tweaking it? I'm not talking about Liberia specifically, but Africa. Why aren't we tweaking it to our advantage, just as the Chinese have done, the Americans have done, even South America, Central America have done? Why are we stuck with this? Let's get rid of the whole thing. It's not working for us. We don't want them here. Let's get rid of them.
Yeah, I think part of it is our laziness, inability to to make adjustments. We tend to lift whole ideas, and just juxtapose them on our setting, But yeah, I mean, you remember Nyerere had his brand of socialism in East Africa. He didn't just go to Russia or the USSR then to bring in what Stalin and Lenin were saying, and come and impose it on the poor Tanzania, and there we got a student, the Ujamaa idea from. The Gaddafi had a green book, his own idea of socialism. So yeah, I think In Liberia, we tend not to, do the heavy lifting necessary to make these things suitable for our setting. There is no way, for instance, you can have a pure capitalist system functioning in Liberia or a socialist system functioning in Liberia. It's usually a brand, a blend of those two. But coming back to the West, I think one of the reasons why these people they thrive and they always vibrant is because they understand that um, in order for the government to sustain to be vibrant, functional, it cannot be in the business of employing people. We got it upside down back home. We think if you're not working for government, then you're not working. But yeah, it's to the contrary. So it is these private outfits usually that are in the neighborhoods here that are developing, these neighborhoods, and mostly the mom and pop businesses. You walk down the road, you go to the little, whether it's 7-Eleven or Wawa. These are not huge multinational, conglomerates like maybe Apple or Microsoft and so on. But those are the people that are keeping the engines running. We have to create the enabling idea, environment in Liberia, so that you, Jerome Gayman, you can go home, you set up a little shop, you employ 2-3 people. Those 2-3 people will pay taxes to the government, and the government will use those taxes as revenue to do things. But when we come and talk about we employing 70,000 people or creating 7,000 jobs. I don't know if those jobs are all private sector job, but that is thing. So you go in these neighborhoods, you see the strip mall here, you see the little mechanic shop here going on. There's no reason why you have to travel from Nukutown to come to Tottenham High School to go to school. Why? You should be able to go to school in Nukutown, or in Logan Town, or St. Michael in Gardensville, but because of the way we build our society, if you want, to go to, strong institution, you have to travel miles. I know people who leave Barobo, which you talked about earlier, all the way in the back of River G. You have to travel through River G and Grand Jita and Nimba to come to the University of Liberia for years before the Tubman University was ever erected, But here, all these universities have satellites, sites. You put up a university in Monrovia, they will have a satellite site in all the other 14 counties. This is how they do it. And yeah, we talk about overpopulation of Monrovia. If you want your life to have any semblance of real life, you got to be in Monrovia. People I know who live in Harper and Pass for 2 months. 2 weeks after the paycheck drops, they still can't get a paycheck, and these people have to live. I know people who leave Harper and come to Monrovia and stay there for weeks trying to run after their paycheck. I don't know if it is still happening. I understand they're not doing direct deposit, but you got to decentralize the function. You got to make every neighborhood be attractive for people to want to remain there. But you can't make one part better than the other part, and then you expect people to stay there. Then you blame, when you graduate from college, we will force you to take out assignment in Weekend, or in Calogan. Why? You don't have to force them to do nothing. You should create a condition. Let me go after those places, but not force me. If you're gonna force me, then you're failing. And we make the argument, you gotta force you to go and serve in the leeward side of the country, give her 2 years, then you can go anywhere you want to go. No, I should be able to make that decision. I should be able to decide that. So it's part of the city planning, part of the governance, part of the decentralization we're talking about. But yeah, this is how this country flourishes. They make sure you can drive from here 800 miles and you find the same thing you left behind you in the next area. Same thing. If you're not careful, you think you're in your neighborhood because the places look very much alike. Almost everything I see here in Jersey, I go to Florida, it's almost the same thing. I go to Massachusetts, almost the same thing. Go to Alabama. So, I'm sure you get a point. So the way we're going after governance, I think there are a lot of things we need to fix, man. And some of them, the fixes are easy. I'm not being flip or trying to any smart here, but Seriously, some of the things that are ailing us, I really think, and start with the low hanging fruit. Start with the little one that can be taken care of. Don't everybody wants to go for the big budget item. You know, you want to make the roads pliable in 90 days of coming into office. Why do you even say that? Why? Anyway, it's Sunday. My Gamecocks are losing. Down Stiller is not
It's
happy,
all
so I'm
right.
not
It's all
happy.
right. I'm watching. I want real quick before I go to Towel, and we'll move to the next subject. I want you to reply to this gentleman here.
James Sumo.
Yeah,
I'm
what is
currently
Mhm.
what is it? Surviving my business in Liberia and also providing employment as well. I'm encouraging Liberians to invest back home. Well, good for him. I'm happy if he's doing well. This is what we are talking about. I can't argue with him because obviously he's doing it. So I don't know what his conditions are, but I know there are a lot of people who have tried, and within 6 months or so, they get stuck. So I don't know how long Mr. Sumo has done this, but I want to commend him. Maybe he can share with us, his secrets on how to make it work. But almost everybody who goes to start a business, the government got people who to sign up people, they want you to bribe them. And then not only that, they want to share in the business. And not only that, every Saturday they want to come around, you get in the brown envelope. And I mean, anyway.
I wanted you to
But let
respond
me
to
just
that
add,
because I'm
let me add on that. Let me add on that quickly, Mr. Gaiman. Right. So
Mhm.
I suspect that Mr. Sumo lives in Liberia. So this is not being horrible in any way, shape, or form. But he's on the ground. He has the time to keep running to the Ministry of Commerce to chase his certificate. But if you look at Mr. Tao, who goes to Liberia, he only got 2 weeks to be there, and he goes to try and register a business, and then they're drilling him from pillar to pole. Do you think and not only that, but Mr. Sumo, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the business is what you're surviving on. So you're willing to put in that hard work and accept whatever running around. But Mr. Tao has other options here. He has a business here. He has a job here. He's just doing this in Liberia because he wants to give back, right? And then now you're making it so difficult for him. And then he turns around and thinks, I got my business in the US. I got my life going on there. So if you guys don't want me to open a business here and employ people, I'll just go back to where I'm coming from. So that when I'm speaking, Mr. Small, maybe I didn't clarify. I'm speaking more from us as in the diaspora that want to start something in Liberia that is more geared towards trying to give something back to the young people. When the government makes it that difficult for us to do it, we don't have the time. We don't have the 6 months. I can't come to Liberia and leave my work and my business here and go sit down there for 6 months running behind the Ministry of Commerce. I don't have that time.
And the reason I wanted, I'm coming to you, Mr. Tower. The reason I wanted Victor to respond to Mr. Sumo is we were in Liberia for almost 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And we were trying to have a legitimate investor. And all they needed was the paperwork to get it done. And we stayed there. I stayed there for 5 weeks and couldn't get one shred of paper. No website, no downloadable information, nothing of that kind. So how do you invite people to come home to open business when there is no structure? There's no guarantee that they're going to get started, and they're just running all over the place. I'm a Liberian. I was born and raised there. It took me that much time, and I got frustrated and left because I wasn't willing to bribe and give anybody an envelope for me to do good for my own people. Let me go to Mr. Tower. Mr. Tower, here we are, where we are talking about the Republic of Liberia opening businesses. In 1948, the UN cut out a piece of land in the Middle East and bequeathed it to Israel. When you look at 1948, where we are talking about, it was basically absolutely nothing there. Desert. And 78 years later, you see where they are, what they have done, and who they have become on the international scene. They didn't get mad with the world for what has happened to them. They were given an opportunity. They took the bull by the horn and look where they are. We have our land. In fact, we have the land to the point where we say no white person is going to ever become a citizen in this place. So it is ours. We can own it, develop it, and bequeath it to generations to come. 204 years later, most of them had the same idea as you. Let's leave America, go somewhere, give us a piece of land, and we're gonna be our own bosses and do it better. 204 years later, we are worse than when they arrived. Your take on your idea of starting from
So look at what happened. There are a lot of things there that I need to unpack.
So
Because
unpack them. That's why you are here.
Some are misrepresentation of my position, and
Good.
some I think is where we are missing some points.
Good.
In the first place, China did not follow the way of the West.
Okay.
Let us establish that, because I heard that here that whether we should be like China and take what they brought and use it, or we should use what. No, that is not how it happened. After China honored Mao, they defeated the entire West, the conceptual West and Japan, and they flushed out the Western leaning group into Taiwan. They took their land. One thing that you hear the West constantly criticize in the whole Chinese revolution led by Mao is the cultural revolution. And they will tell you about how many people, these are people who go around murdering people all over the world, but they're always concerned about somebody killing their own people, as if they have some sort of morality, which doesn't exist. That cultural revolution was when Mao then inherited the Chinese population. They found out that these people were not Chinese, even though they look Chinese. But what makes you to be a person is your consciousness. That is where Africa is. So they launched the cultural revolution that took generations. The President Xi today is part of that group. They called the Little Red Army. They sent them back into the villages and towns because they refused to believe that their way of life that had long history behind it was of no use to them, that it is other people's way of life that was good enough to move them forward, which they didn't believe, because every group of people established in different places, and they have their own culture and their own tradition by which they guide themselves. You can never ever use anybody else's culture and tradition to guide you. How difficult it is for us to understand this. The Chinese understood that. So they created this layer of young people that they knew that in the future they were prepared to take China to where it is. The Jiang Zemin, the Hu Jintao, and the Xi Jinping. These are the guys. They prepared them. They went back. They said they closed. You know what they did? School is not important if you have people who don't have knowledge of themselves. They closed school. They closed school from the university down to kindergarten for 5 years. They send them all back into the villages and towns. Go and learn from the peasants, from the locals, from the villages to know who you are. Go learn the folk laws. Go learn the rhythms. Go learn the tradition. They learned that. And then they started to bring them through the rank over time. Chinese did not get any resources and have it shipped out. The Chinese built industries. The West saw the Chinese population. We need to go back and look at the history. John D. Rockefeller, who was the grandson of the Rockefeller, met Kissinger at Harvard. And they became friends. Kissinger, who is allegedly a Jew, the goal was to exploit the Chinese population of 400 million people. And so when they engaged the Chinese, that is how Kissinger, the Rockefeller that owned the UN, that influential in running the US government, recommended Kissinger to be the Secretary of State. They picked him and they flew with him in 1974 to China. They met with Mao. and Deng Xiaoping for them to bring the factories to go where they were going to leverage Chinese labor. But the Chinese knew that they were not strong enough. So they said, look at what happened here, what we should do. Yes, we have the labor, but let us do technology transfer. Does that sound like what we are doing? These are some of the stuff I've been pointing out. I'm not the only person. If they're going to come to our country for them to exploit our resources, our iron ore, let us do some technology transfer. Let us do some kind of hybrid stuff. Look, you mining 100% of the iron ore. Let us refine 30% here, take 70%. And then with that put in place, you have factories. Through the factory, you have to have trained people. Through that, technology start to come in. And from there, you build on it. That is what the Chinese did. The West, with the arrogance, said that, you know what? We are smart. Anything we give them will be 10 years old. We are going to be 10 years ahead of them. What did the Chinese do? Learn on that, and then were able to leap. And the assumption they made, they thought they were African, that the more technologically advanced they become, the more European they will become, and they will lie because the people have already entrenched themselves in the tradition. You think the act of doing business, you think it's a Western thing? You think the act of adding to say 1 + 1 is equal to 2 is a Western thing? It's been done. But the model in which you are operating, that model is Western. No matter how much you use it, it affects you and it benefits the West. That is that model I'm talking about, dismantling. And we're trying to say that the Western capitalism, that is why it's better. It is not better because they are more intelligent. It's not standing because they are more intelligent. It is not doing all this building and all this stuff because of anything. It's doing it because of brute force and crime. We are seeing it now in Iran. When somebody decides that they own their oil, that they want to self-determine, it's a Western capital that go in that they must have access to the oil. We are living this stuff in Venezuela. When they say it's our oil, we must determine it's in Western capital. So we want to put here that somehow they are like this because somehow they're genius. No, it's because of crime. It happened to us when we're extracted from the continent. It happened to us when we're enslaved on the continent in the name of colonization. You think America and Europe got wealthy in terms of the infrastructure because they don't have anything in Europe? Europe have nothing. Why do you think they have to scatter around the world to go and conquer places? So for us to give this kind of information that somehow, and this is where we continue to mislead ourselves because we hold this kind of position, then we continue to believe that the way in which they do things is the right way, and we want to subscribe to everything. Even the development model of the West is not one to follow. It is predatory. So I wanted to clarify that. Then the next one is about Israel, making comparison between Israel and Liberia. Israel, there was a claim that 6 million people were killed, which each time they try to get questioned, it is questionable. Then you're not allowed to question it, and then you get sanctioned. But 6 million people. When Leopold Sédar Senghor, when Cecil Rose took over the Congo Free State, that used to be called Mani Congo, that today they call DRC Congo, how many people did they kill? 30 million. When Dr. Jameson and Frederick Lucas took over the colony called Nigeria today, how many Africans did they exterminate? 15 million. We can go on the Atlantic slave trade. How many Africans died in that rite of passage? Almost 100 million. Do you know that Israel was given reparation? Israel will not get brought into the desert that you're talking about. Wealth extracted from around the world was given to them to build. Technology was given to them to self-determine. So we cannot give the story and leave that out. When all of this crime was committed against Africa, and when we are talking about reparation, nobody wants to hear it. When we're talking about energy transfer or technology transfer, they don't want to hear it. So we cannot make that comparison. Here's one person that was abused and constantly abused, left with nothing, and here's one guy that there is some claim, and then he's giving everything. So we have to separate the two. But look, this is more than just leadership. Okay? Here is in Burkina Faso. When a good leader come in and they want to do something, what is happening? Look at the Western hostility. They tell you that their way of doing things is the best. No, it's not the best. It's a lie. And they themselves know it. And we have to know. Because if your way of doing things is the best, and somebody say, okay, you know what? We don't want to follow your way of doing things, we'll do it our own way. Immediately, you are hostile against them to the point of destabilizing them so that you can prove that only your way of doing things. No. Leave them, let them do it, and then let them fail. Then you point out and say, hey, you see, they failed. You see, we told you. Have you seen that? Venezuela, when they refused and they were following their own way from Hugo Chavez. Do you know that they overthrew Hugo Chavez in 2002? Bush? They overthrew him, but because they already got the information, they have special forces in the presidential palace. Hugo Chavez was seized. And why was he seized? Because he wanted for them to manage their own oil. Why was he seized? He was seized and put in Chinook helicopter flown over the Gulf. There were CIA agents and some senators here from the US. They were installing the government that they have brought from the US when they were captured inside that presidential palace. Okay? And the deal was you bring Chavez back and release these people. Chavez was brought back and put back in there, and that is how they were released and they left. But I'm making this point so that we don't get ahead of ourselves that somehow the West is the way they are because somehow there's some kind of genius that no, brute force, crime. This low, when I see people say, oh, you hate. No, it's not about hating people. The history is there. When we want to talk about own interest, other for certain, I'm a radical other person hate. But when we think that we should devote our time and our energy to somebody else's interest. So when we look at Liberia is not going anywhere. We're talking about the oil. The oil does not belong to you. Do you know what is in the oil contract? 3%. Liberia does not own the oil. Like 3%. That is what Liberia get if they find oil. Can you imagine that?
Well, we could say that, Dr. Booty, we want to move to the next one, but let's respond to what's on the screen here. So Ethiopia is following the Chinese blueprint, right? And then follow that by Ethiopia is building a new airport and railway, all self-funded. So that kind of defeats Tao's argument here that if you did it the right way and did it to do what you're supposed to do, they will come for you and they will overthrow you. But yet and still, we have people who are tweaking the model and making it work for them. Ethiopia just built this massive dam, right? That will be basically powering the whole of Africa at some point. And now they are following up with some other stuff, and the colonial powers are now asking them to partner. So it's not everywhere that they go and destroy and pillage. If your people do it the right way, you take on the Ethiopian model.
No, Mr. Gaiman, I think you're misrepresenting or you're overstating some things here, because at the end of the day, what Mr. Tao said and what I agree with, obviously, yes, Ethiopia is doing great in terms of what, the dam, which is obviously causing a lot of problems between them and their other East/North African neighbors like Egypt, who depend on the Nile for their water source. So that's another conversation to have. And yet, they are being left alone at this moment in time. But I think when you summarize what Mr. Tao is saying, the way I would put it is, look, whenever self-determination of any country threatens the way of life of the West, you become an enemy, right? So all I can say is maybe for now, Ethiopia is not a threat. Their development, whatever they're doing, is not threatening Western way of life. Whereas oil, right, we know the West depends on oil, right? So for example, like if it's indeed true that they mine oil, they need that oil from us. And that's why if we try to do something, they might come after it. If you look at Burkina Faso, I think it's that they have in abundance, and the West needs the uranium. And anyone that tried to stop them or cut off their supply, then it becomes a problem. I was reading or watching something yesterday on Ghana with the gold. Ghana is getting 5% of royalties at the moment. And Mahama is saying, no, we need to increase that. And they're passing a new law. And next thing you know, embassies of the US, the UK, Canada, ambassadors are going to see the president and say, oh, no, you can't do this because our companies here don't want to pay, I think 12%. They want to increase it. Can you imagine you're digging gold in Ghana, you're paying them 5% royalties. They say, no, we should get 12%, and you're angry to give them 12%. You're still taking 88% of the royalties, right? and you're saying no. That's unacceptable. So some of I agree, Mr. Tao, with everything you said. These are factual events, but I think the Ethiopia situation, just to respond to the Ethiopia thing, they're not seen as a threat yet. I think once Ethiopia is seen as a threat to Western way of life, then they become a target. So we've seen it with Venezuela, the largest deposit of oil in the world. That's why they've gone there. Saudi Arabia wants access to Iran oil, which is why they're pushing the Americans and they to go after Iran. Israel wants to be the hegemonic force within the Middle East, so they want to destabilize the only other country that is standing up to them in the Middle East. So yeah, it's all about the threat to Western civilization. If you look at Liberia, there's a book I read recently by a guy called Nizan, called 2 Years of U.S. Military Intervention in Liberia. Simply because he was trying to develop Liberia, he was moving toward the east, trying to get expertise from the east. He started building estates, cheap estates for people, improving the lives of ordinary Liberians, opening up from a repressive regime to allowing people like Mr. Nangbe and them to have political views and opinions in Liberia. And the Americans didn't like that. But oh no, this guy's getting too cozy. And what is all about the threat. So the Ethiopia situation, yes. The Rwanda situation, yes. These guys are not threat yet. As soon as they start to threaten the Western way of life, i.e., their ability to come in and pillage and grab our resources, then you will see the hostility towards them.
Great.
But Dr. Budilo, let me say something for 1 minute about the
real quick.
Yeah, how can we forget about them destabilizing Ethiopia through Haile Mariam of TPLF? That the West entrenched in power with their red arm, with the killing squad for almost 40 years. That then the people got tired and they rose up against them, flushed them out. When Abiy came in, they saw that they could not hold the TPLF in place anymore. So the West decided to award him a Nobel Prize. When he came in, what did he do? He unified the relationship between them and their brothers, the Eritreans, and then started to work on a model that was good enough for the benefit of Ethiopia. What did the West do? Through Egypt and from the overthrow of Sudan, where they brought the gun, what did they do? They armed the TPLF. What were we here in 2021, 2022, when they funded them and they almost took over Addis Ababa? And the West were even demanding that they were even writing the so-called RCC or whatever to arrest Abiy. When we here, was it the Chinese and the Russians that stepped in to defeat the TPLF that they were bringing from Tigray to push them back? Wasn't Trump in power threatening that he will bomb the Renaissance Dam? Then he bring Sisi here to the White House and they were threatening to bomb the dam. So Ethiopia is already a threat and they've been under pressure. So we need to lay these things out. You're talking about Kagame. Who brought Kagame to power? Was it French and Americans by blowing up that plane? Why is Kagame relevant? Kagame continued to be used to invade the Congo along with Museveni, and they are moving the resources through there into Rwanda, and they're selling it to the Europeans. This is well established. So Kagame is there because he served a purpose. No matter what type of development he's carrying out, but he's there and he's serving a purpose. Okay? So the moment you cut off that, and that is why DRC is not able to be strong enough. Look at what happened here. We know we have leaders that come in. Okay, in Liberia now, you have a leader that want to come in and change stuff. What did Turbo do? What was some of the stuff that led to Turbo death? Let us go back and look at the declassified CIA paper, because I read it in 2002. It is available. Turbo trying to audit Firestone. And when he audited them, they were committing financial crime and they were taxed. When he asked that you have your Omega Tower in the Philippines, you pay billion plus, you have 1 year, you paid nothing for. He started saying you must pay something for these installations. They wrote in the paper that this guy have heavy hand against America's interest when he was chosen as the head of the world, global backed alliance, hanging out with Jimmy Carter. Then they already signed his death warrant. This is the point that we are making. So when it is not about them just coming and killing anybody, but what we are saying here is that you are not failing simply because you are just of no use. That is how they want us to perceive it. No, you are failing because they are constantly in your system. If the West have interest in Liberia so much and the goodness of Liberian well-being, why aren't they putting money into technology? Why aren't they actually coming and say, you know what? We have this $500 billion grant. We're going to go ahead and train Liberians and build refining areas, industrial parks. But they put it in areas that you cannot quantify: nation building, institutional building, or elections. Anything the sponsor is not good for you is never meant to help you. These are the areas to put money. Women's rights, gender equality, things that will destabilize and create tension between male and female.
Thank you. Let's
Yeah,
guys.
Jerome, give me 10 seconds. Look, some of what Mr. Tao is saying, but I disagree with most of what he's saying. I think these are all excuses that have been made over. Look, there are countries right now, even on the continent. I'm not even going worldwide. I can name you the very Ethiopia we just talked about, Eritrea, Botswana, Seychelles, Mauritius, that have said, you know what, we will do the best we can to make it on our own. I mean, look at what's happening in Burkina Faso. And don't tell me about the West doing this and doing. I think those are excuses. I will not accept those, Tao. I'm not saying they are not legitimate, but we do
then
have.
You're not accepting facts, Mr. Nangwe. Then you're not accepting facts.
What facts?
What facts, Dr. Budi?
The facts are that since Traore has been in power, they've tried to kill him multiple times.
Right, but they
Right?
haven't.
But they haven't.
No, but Mr. Nangwe. The fact
No,
that
Dr.
they
Budi,
missed
I will not.
is
No,
not
I
an
will not.
excuse for
This time
they're
I
not
will
doing
not
it to
let me tell
undermine
you
him.
this. Let me tell you this. Even here, they try to kill Trump all the time. They will always try to kill somebody, but you have to keep pushing.
That's
I
right.
refuse to accept that.
Giving an
And
plan
I
acting
just
again.
I just said to you, there are countries on the continent that are making
How can
it.
you Trump had a period? How can you miss the head in the deal that
Victor, I agree with you because just 2 weeks ago on this show we announced when President Muhammad addressed the nation, he says as of 2026, no raw material will leave this country.
Exactly.
Everything has to have added value, and they are negotiating with the West. And
you have to give it time.
Listen, this is a transformative idea that, listen, as of this time, there should be factories built, there should be industrialization here to add value. Even if you don't give us any money, the people you are going to hire, the machinery, all of these things are going to add value to our lives.
I don't think that's too much to ask.
I don't think it's asking for too much. I don't think the West is going to say, no, you're
You
not
can
going
call
to do this.
Why you mean by the West would not say no when the resources don't belong to the West?
Listen,
how can you say the West would not say no when the resources don't belong to the West?
But let me tell you. Well, let me tell you one thing. I was just in Liberia, right? And the guys who transport gold out of Liberia, and they were able to admit the reason we are losing a lot is because when you weigh the dust of the gold, it has less value. But when you solidify the gold in Liberia, then you can now charge an actual value for your gold. So that's what Ghana is saying. Everything is going to be done here.
And that is what Asola Metal is trying to do in Nimba 9. They're celebrating.
Correct.
They're carrying a compactor in there. They're going to take out all the dust and take out the value of the. And then nobody, the president goes there. He leaves out the whole of Nimba County. He takes Monrovia with him and sign $1.1 billion contract. He comes to Monrovia to celebrate. I think this is the problem with talking about Mr. Tao. I'm not saying the West will not push back. I get that, and I agree with you. They will, because they will defend their turf. That is from time immemorial. People will always
not their turf. They're committing crime. Let's
see, Tao. The idea here is, if you understand interest, right? What is called interest, like the Americans have always said, okay? We have no permanent friends. We have permanent interest. And our permanent interest is that our way of life will be number one. It is that's what Trump is telling you. It is your job to make Liberia first. If don't blame me. Don't blame me for making America. Don't blame me for making America first. When listen, let me rest.
You cannot. No. I will not let you rest, Mr. Gavin.
Okay,
You cannot see
guess
what
what?
just happened
Okay, because
in Venezuela and say,
Uh-huh.
you can self-determine. You can't say that. You can't see what's happening in Iran, a country that doesn't have nuclear sites. The same Trump told us last year that he obliterated all of the sites. So what are you going to bomb again if everything already damaged?
Okay.
The same
but
Iran that did
No,
not
no,
attack
listen,
anyone.
listen. Let me give you. From
you can
19.
fight.
Listen,
You can
from
fight by
19.
your own without using the bellicose rhetoric that comes from people like Maduro in Venezuela, in Iran. You know, you're posturing for a fight. Why do you need that? Yeah, maybe you can flash muscle. I get that. And when you do that, you should be prepared for the blowback.
But I'm so surprised.
Listen,
Surprised at what?
Mr. Namwe.
And you,
Surprised at what? Iran
Mr.
gets on and said they want to end the whole of Israel and end the whole of the United States. You
There
think that
you
is
go.
that is
That's
no,
how
is
it's
that-
that
is
that did
that-
not happen. That did not happen in a vacuum.
no.
But
This is
but
I'm not
They
talking
were
about now.
provoked.
They
They
don't
were
get in the
provoked and they
vacuum.
spoke back.
Then don't get in a vacuum, because if you get in a vacuum, that's what happens.
But the vacuum is simply because they exist as a country.
Listen,
That's it.
from
They
19
exist as a country, and that's it.
listen, Dr. Booty, from April 1979, the Ayatollah have made it clear that their sole responsibility is the destruction of Israel.
That is not true.
Listen,
That is not
I
true.
don't know when
That
Mr.
is
Jamin
a
get his facts
propaganda.
from.
It's not true.
listen. The Ayatollah said death to the United States and death to Israel. And those are fighting words. If you tell me death to me and death to everybody else around me, you are in for a fight that you may never win. Like now, I'm watching here.
You see why Africa don't get in a way?
Listen.
No, because they brainwash Mr. Gaiman and Mr. Nangbe. That's the problem. And these are the people that won't be our leaders next. You know that, right? When if the CMC wins, these are the people that are going to be running our government, and these are the ideas that they have.
Dr. Booty, I'm watching Tehran now. The entire nation is black, dark.
And that is a joy. That is joy because
no, it's acceptable for him. Yeah, it's acceptable.
These are people who just killed over 30,000 of their own people on the streets.
That their own people. Why would Americans have been killing black people? Millions and millions of them.
That false comparison. False
How is that
comparison.
false? And then a black people in America not American?
30,000 of its own people in one day or 1 week.
Mr. Gaiman, Mr. Gaiman, don't do that. So are you saying that because they happen in a shorter period of time, so it's worse? A million people, the extermination of Indians from America, so that the whites could take over, right?
Now you go into historical stuff. Now let's go to the next topic here, because the history here, this is a rabbit hole that we're going into, and we're not gonna. But let's go to what's happening in Liberia. Let's go to number one thing on our topic here. The GAC just cleared Honorable Natana McGill and Ms. Glasgow that the claim against them for corruption was false. There's no evidence. So here we are. Why did this new government just come out and say these things, tarnish other people's reputation, only to be found that these things were never actually true? It was, was this meant to be targeting, to intimidate? If this is true, what else do they have in the making? Who else are they falsely accusing? Your take, Dr. Booty, on this situation.
That is, and I will not stay too long on this because I really want to hear Mr. Tao's opinion on this. But it's almost exactly the playbook of the West, right? If you want to get rid of someone, you lie and lie and lie to Mr. Gaiman and Mr. Nangbe about them. They believe it, and they start to spit those same lies and propaganda, and then everybody start following. And that's exactly what happens. That's what Waka is doing in Liberia, right? It's not surprising, like we've seen it with LTA, right? The commissioners, they were suspended or fired initially. The Supreme Court said, no, you can't fire these people, they're tenured. But okay, but then they stole money or they did this, so we'll suspend them. and investigate. The investigation has been going on for 2 years or something now. We still don't have an outcome, but you have his cronies acting in those roles. Same thing happened in Central Bank. The governor was there. Oh, he did this, suspended him. In the end, they paid him off. So how can you suspend someone for corruption, don't investigate, but pay them off? Emma Glasgow, they did this. So it's not new, right? This is the playbook of anyone who's been indoctrinated by this Western way of thinking. If you want something, you take it by force. And if the person don't want to leave, you lie on them, you discredit them in the eyes of the public, and do whatever it takes to get them out. And you obviously, you know, and that's exactly what's happening. So I'm not surprised. It's a shame that this president is doing. You know, people trusted him. The Liberian people trusted him to come in and do work to make their lives better. But all he's doing is rewarding individuals that supported him to get named president, because I think that's all he was interested in. Oh, that Baka became president too. So yeah, he don't care about it. I'll leave it there, and I'm sure Mr. Tao will expand.
Mr. Tao, listen, we all know.
Let Tao take a break. I'll come in.
Yes, Mr. Tao. Mr. Tao, you want
Western propaganda.
Mr. Tao, you want to take a drink? I don't know what kind of drink you got down there. What in that bottle? Your Bassa people, your Bassa people, that to be crystal clear. You take the water, try it.
The crew got something they call. There's another they call nyasno. The crew version. I was about to get down there.
Yeah, but why are you taking it like by your code? Why are you telling you? But
it's clearer than water. You see, like it's so clear.
Yeah,
they got it. They call it nyasno. I think they call it nyasno. Yeah, it's like 90 proof or something like that.
90 proof got nothing on that stuff. The real by your code, 150 proof. They got to when you do the matches, when you do the
propaganda again. How you pay about 100%, and start going to other percentages.
Listen, when you do the matches like this, it do both. The real alcohol. That one you know drinks. Alcohol.
No, that one you test it with your eye. When you do so, your tear driving kind of there.
Mr. Tao.
Yeah.
McGill was being paraded all over the place as a citizen. Say he was padding payroll. He got 500 people on the payroll in his office. It turned out all of that turned out to be lies.
Okay.
It never happened. And now the government is saying the stories were all made up.
Okay. So look at what happened here. I will address this from 3 positions. The first one is how in the heck did the government not find McGill guilty when the U.S. sanctioned him for corruption? Because I'm saying this because the moment the U.S. says this person is corrupt, that person is automatically corrupt. And when I was on this program, it's not because McGill is not corrupt, but when I was on the program, that these sanctions are not meant to achieve anything in the interest of the country, Liberia, but it's meant to influence that government and to control certain outcomes. And I mentioned it here, I was vilified. That are radical, all this stuff. Because you mentioned anything but the West, you got to be the devil itself. Why didn't they consult with the West to give them the evidence? Because they listed the kind of corruption and the crime that he was involved in. And so the West then to come up with that as the God of Liberia, they already had the information, the traces of money being wired and everything. So what happened? Okay. So I'm asking because there's just a question I'm asking for you to sit up there to know that anytime these things come up, if most of the time from the West, it really don't mean anything. These are people that are stealing everything you have. But when they steal from you, it's good. But when you steal from your own people, that's wrong. They kill you, it's good. When you kill your own people, it's wrong. So they must act. And the next one is when I came here 2.5 years ago, on the same show, I said that this government would never find anybody guilty for no corruption. It's not because the people maybe didn't steal something or they stole something. Because the government itself is useless and corrupt. All the government coming to power in Liberia have no interest in the country. These are hungry bunch of people who think that just coming in and stealing is the only way for them to live their life. So they were only going to try to claim to indict some people here and there, or charge or put up some stuff so that they can fool the public that they were doing something. Because I said here, they would never ever set precedent. You only set precedent that you were a barbar. But these guys did not even take office. They were already stealing over the place. How would the president explain how a house that was over there, that I grew up around our house, that changed overnight? He didn't have money. How will he explain about the $10 million the one that's going on here? How will he explain? So you see, so they're doing the same thing. You cannot hold people responsible on a moral ground if you're doing the same thing that you're trying to charge them for. So they were playing on the Liberian people, and I knew it won't go anywhere. Man, we can even you don't have to be able to know all the record, know that McGill them stole. They stole a lot of money. But the government is not going to do anything. So all the corruption charges that they're going to do is all just a front. Jerome, like you always say, smoke screen. Okay? So yeah, that's just it. And all the corruption charges, you see them, what they're trying to do again, the Clear Wealth Foundation. I want to believe stolen money is in there. Because the lady handled millions of dollars. She didn't have no money to build anything until she became so-called first lady. And I followed that one. She said that this was for the foundation and they were going to use it. And then a couple of months before they could leave power, she claimed that now there was no state money in there. It was her own money and money she raised from somewhere. What money did she have? But you see, they're doing all this stuff. They're not going to charge anybody. You're going to see this over and over and over because the government itself don't work anything. How a whole bunch of the people in the government that are actually the brain behind the government come from abroad. They're stealing too. I know a lot of them. They're stealing and bringing it over here. They don't live in the country. After they steal in the government, and in the next 6 years or 3 years or so beyond, they all come back. They leave the country in deplorable state than they met it, like we saw it in the last 22 years. So anybody sitting in the platform that is sitting from here and trying to go and work in the government, following the same blueprint. That is why each time you mention the democracy, they resist against it. They want to explain their way because they themselves, they have their eye on the coffers of Liberia. The West that worship. Tell me, how many of their leaders that live in Germany, that is their own Europe, that stay there and they campaign until they win, then they come here to take power? If we want to follow America's example, why can't we follow this one? That the people that are going to rule and lead the country must live in the country. The people that lead the way must live in the country. They must bear some burn if the policies are wrong and it's bad. And let's adapt that one. But you see, we can't do it because everybody intends on stealing from the country.
Excellent. That is, guys. Let's take a few minutes break to stretch our legs. We'll be right back in 45.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jack.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, we
I
are back.
have to refill.
You got a refill?
Yeah.
You hear what the man, this guy from the South, you see what he said? When you drink that tea, you put hair on your chest. Nambi said, when you get it and you want to know how strong it is, you put it to your eye, you see the, and when you drink it, hair start growing on your chest, just like, how do you call it, the monster, your hair will start growing. And so if you want hair, Listen, next weekend when you come with your chest shows over your seat.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Next time you come back here, we come back here with chest hair. We know exactly what you've been doing.
We know exactly where you are, man. You be that green monster. Ladies and gentlemen, share this show, get involved. We are following the comment section here, and we love it. Listen, this is what this show is all about. It's about the confrontation, but it has to be truthful. And sometimes some people are just off point. Like today, Dr. Booty and Tower, they are just off point. And Victor and I, we are on point. That's the name of the show. You're either on point or you're not on point. And today, the two guys at the bottom, you see, we demoted them. Victor, you see them, we demoted. You are off point. So, guys, Dr. Booty, Mr. Tower has a point. If everything the United States says we believe and trust, even without evidence, because when they sanction, when the American government did not want the CDC in power, it was evident what the ambassador was doing. Even he was taken to task on BBC when the gentleman said, "Mr. Ambassador, you couldn't do this in France. You couldn't do this in Europe. You are interfering." He said, well, to some degree, I may have gone too far. So we know that they cannot do this somewhere else. Then when they ask them what was the evidence, they say it was not a decision that can be adjudicated because it is not one. It is a political decision that requires no evidence. So Tower is saying, if you believe everything that they were throwing at you guys to be true, then why not just find them guilty?
Well, there is an aspect of your propagandist view that can be accepted, and that is our leaders do have a part to play and they're not playing those parts. So let me give you an example. The reason why I believe that, and this is an opinion, that the government of Liberia got it wrong, and I agree with Mr. Tao that they will not, or they might not find people guilty because they're afraid that, when they come out, they could be found guilty for something similar. Look, everyone who followed President Weah when he was not president saw Nathaniel McGill and didn't see him with the luxury that he now has, right? You do not have to be a rocket scientist to know that something was not right, because whatever was being paid for him as paid to him as Minister of State was not enough, or is not equivalent to the kind of wealth that we see on display, right? This is why when President Weah made the mistake of not putting his foot down on this whole declaring of assets situation, it's difficult for the Liberian government to be able to prove that Nathaniel McGill stole money when we did not know how much he was worth when he came into power. So there's nothing to compare with now that he's out of power. So, for example, if the man came in, you didn't know whether he had 100 or 200, and now he has 10 million, you can't say to him, "Oh, look, we believe that you have evidence." And this is why when we see this president doing the exact same thing, then I agree with the notion that Mr. Tao is putting forward, that he will not go after these guys for corruption because they're doing it themselves. Because the only reason why I wouldn't want to declare my assets when I'm going into a public office is because I want to take something and I don't want people to be able to measure or be able to account for, okay, but how did you go from A to Z when you didn't even have A when you started, or you had only B when you started? How did you do this quickly? And that is where I think our leaders are culpable, right? So that one, you can't put it on the West. The West didn't tell George Weah not to declare assets or to get his government officials to declare their assets so that LACC can be able to find Nathaniel McGill guilty. The government in the West didn't tell Joseph Walker and his cronies not to. They didn't ask him to buy a $1.4 million car. There are a lot of things that they're doing on their own that the West has nothing to do with. And that one, we have to put it on them. And I just believe that the fact that the president at the time didn't help the Liberian people has made it difficult for the LACC to be able to prove this. Now, do the Americans have evidence? I don't think they do. I think, like most of us, they look at what they see, and again, you can take a step back and say, look, the Americans have their fingers in a lot of things. So it's possible that they do have the evidence and just decided not to share it with the Liberian government. Either way, LACC could have had that evidence themselves if President Weir, and now when this president is out, if he had put in place and implemented the law that says before you take office as a public official, you must declare your asset LACC. LACC has something to compare with when you leave power. And until we can start doing those things, unfortunately, we will keep having these situations because President Sirleaf had the same thing where she suspended a lot of people, investigated them, and nobody ever got convicted once under her. And that will continue to happen until presidents can take it seriously and implement the law that when you come to, before you take your office, tell us how much money you have, how many properties you have, how much wealth you have, so that we know what to measure. There has to be a matrix to measure it against. And until we have that, it's difficult for LACC to do their job.
Okay. Victor, Mr. Namwe, here we are. In 2005, I was in Liberia when someone asked if I was willing to take up a job. The job paid $5,000 a month. And knowing my wife and the children and the mortgage and the car note and the insurance and all of that, there was no way I could have made $5,000 in Liberia to support a home and family in Liberia and support my home and family here. That's just a given fact. On the flip side, Costa said McGill was in a rooming place. He lived in he was renting a room. His life was terrible, and he went from there to a mansion. But look at the elevation from making $150 a month to making $7,000 a month. That's a $7,000 elevation. If you were in a room making $100 or $200 a month, instantly you are making $7,000 a month. No one can tell me that you can build a mansion or your life will not improve exponentially. So they think about, well, this man was he was in a room and then 1 year later he got a mansion. That is something that I know for the fact. It is not a miracle. It is quite possible that you can go from a rental room making $200 a month to a mansion making $7,000 a month. Your take on what's going on in Liberia? What do you think?
Yeah, I really don't. I don't want to go into the sausage making of how McGill came into his wealth. But I am aware, and I think as you are too. We were in Liberia. A lot of the people tell us, there are a lot of ways you can get loans from the bank. All kinds of collateral. I've heard lots of stories. So it is possible, that this man may have been living off, his income. I don't know. But the bigger point is, I think the LACC, I think Miss Alexandria Zoe was appointed by this president. I hope I'm not mistaken. I don't think she's a carryover from the Weir regime. And I don't know that you'll be working against this government, as most of the trolls on the UP trolls on Facebook are implying now. Now they're going to audit her, whatever, accusing her of sabotage, whatever. But if the woman was cleared, I believe besides the LACC, I think there are other remedies. I think they can go to court if they feel, that the LCC did not do this. Well, I think they can still go to court if they have enough evidence to indict Glasgow or McGill, or anybody else. But I'll remind my colleagues of this again. I'll reference Musa Bilite, the we wrote today from Saclay Pier. It's about politics. And I shared this on my Facebook as well. It's about politics. Let me see. I want to make sure I get it right. It is about politics The ordinary Liberian. Okay, it's about politics, truth, and the mind of the ordinary Liberian. So he's arguing that when you're in opposition, you don't want to set yourself up for a situation that you will not be able to handle. You don't want to create an impression that becomes a burden on you when you win political office. He argues that as opposition, you continue to call out the government, but you have to also be mindful. First, you don't exaggerate what is happening, and then I think you should learn to be magnanimous enough to give credit where credit is due. So I think it is the case with this government. They made a lot of promises of what they would do when they came to power, and I think they are falling on their own souls so many times, to the point where now they're flirting. They're attacking pretty much any and everybody, including even their own children. I mean, some of these people are rescue children. They're on the rescue train, so it's like an implosion. They're eating their own babies. But yeah, I think the LSCC came out and cleared this lady, and then to make matters worse, I think the president has already gone ahead and replaced this lady. So now, what is going to happen? I think she's going to be paid. And I think this is what is bothering them. But I have questions myself about McGill's sudden, opulence, if I may call it that. But I didn't know McGill before he came into government, so I don't know what he was before he came into government. And so, if the LCC say he's clear, and the government feels that they still have cause to go after him, I think they should sue or they should go to court.
Well, let me push back on that. Now,
let me say
yeah,
something.
I'm coming now. I'm coming now that he has been clear. Can he in turn sue?
I think he should sue them too for
No,
defamation.
you cannot sue the government.
I think he can sue them too. He can sue them for defamation. But let me.
You know how many times they have sued the American government, lost and paid? Yeah, go ahead.
Nobody
Yeah, let me
depends
pivot on this
like
because I know my young brother wants to come in. Let me pivot a little bit. I didn't want to beat this argument to death. So his last comment he made about my representation today about the situation in the Middle East, I didn't want to bring it back. But since I have the space now, let me just say this, Dr. Budi. Look, I don't believe what is happening to Iran between Iran and the United States is right. I think this is bullying. I think the president of the United States does not have justifiable reason right now for being in Iraq. That I agree with. But I'm also saying to you, when you are against a superpower such as the United States, and let's be clear, I don't know of any other country on the face of this planet that can stand up to the US, not Russia, not China, not Iran. You want to be careful how you conduct yourself. And I'm not saying you should call yourself in the corner or all of that. But if you're going to be spewing bellicose rhetoric, you better well be prepared to back it up. I mean, what did Nicolas Maduro didn't say to the U.S. and how long did it take them? Not even a day to fish him out. If you're going to talk that you can fight, then you should fight because a fight is going to come. But if you don't and you don't have the capacity, then you want to be careful how you pick your fights. You don't want to invite a situation that will overwhelm you. Yeah, I mean that's the point I'm trying to make here. I'm not saying that the United States is justifying going to Iran, but from the time I was a kid, from the 70s, and Jerome just called the date, we know the hostages that were taken and all of that stuff. This is something from the overthrow of the Shah. There has been a hostile posture between these two countries, and I thought Iran would be ready for whatever will come, just like the U.S. is always ready. That's the point I was making. I'm not saying, coming back to Africa, yeah, I think there are countries here that can make it, even though with the pressure from the U.S., and the countries are making it. You can find a way around the situation. I think part of the problem we have in our country is a management problem, is a leadership problem. I maintain that. I don't think any kind of Western country will stop us from calling in Firestone and say, you know what? Today, we want you to do value added to your latest. Don't just bring the trucks. take the litters from Harbor and go to the port and put it in a ship and send it to Akron, Ohio. How about you process some of the rubber here, add some value to it? That will add more work to more people working. Or maybe, do a little slipper factory here or a little gloves factory or something here. You've been here over I don't know how many years. I don't see what is wrong with that. I mean, Ellen Johnson came in and she was able to go in there and request a renegotiation of the contract. I think Kofi was leading that effort. I don't know how far that got, but I will pass it back to you.
Ghana from all those.
What's that?
I said he bought his own mansion from Ghana. I mean, in Ghana.
No, I mean, but I know that when they went there, this because my auntie husband worked for Firestone in Plevo hospital camp. I live with him. Though you get in those houses that you can't come out. There's only one way to go in and come out. And then you go in. As soon as you enter, you're in the living room, and then the bedroom is in the back. Everybody else in the house there is in our little place there.
But that's studio now.
Let me come in. Before you go back and forth, because I don't want to forget what I want to say.
Oh, you're too young to forget. Go ahead.
No, I do forget. No. So first of all, Mr. Nami, what I would suggest you do, there are a couple of books. There's one by a guy called Greg Midman called Empire of Rubber that I think you should read to understand Firestone's influence and power in Liberia. And the second one is the one I mentioned earlier, 200 years of U.S. military intervention in Liberia. And you understand that whenever presidents have tried to negotiate deals with Firestone or renegotiate, the State Department gets informed, and then the next thing you know, there are conversations with that country, with whoever the president is, look, you need to back up, all right? Ellen did it, but even with that,
Mr. Tao, can you hear Dr. Booty is breaking up from my end?
Yeah, I hear him.
Okay, so it must be my internet.
Yeah, you don't want to hear my response. That's why you say I'm breaking up, but it's okay. Mr. Tao, the audience can hear, so that's good enough for me. No, but I just say on the Firestone thing, read that because it'll give you a lot of background story on the influence that Firestone has in Liberia. I think on the issue of the bullying of the U.S., look, all of these presidents, all of these countries have spoken back because they've been threatened, right? You can't expect an Iran or expect a Venezuela to just sit there and somebody just threaten you every day and you don't say, oh, look, stop threatening me, right? I didn't do anything, stop threatening me. Because that's basically what they're saying. Iran has never said that they will go to America and throw bombs. Iran has never threatened America that, oh, we'll come to your country and destroy it. Venezuela never threatened to attack the U.S. All they did was responded to the threats that were coming to them, responded to the blockades of their oil, responded to America telling, oh, you can't sell to China, you have to don't sell. Again, this their country, they should determine whom to sell to. When you're telling someone how to live their life, even if you're a child, Mr. Nangwe, and I'm sure you've got friends, or even I'm not sure about your family, but you've got friends who have children. There are many times when I was growing up, once I passed 18 and my parents said do things, they were like, I ain't doing it. That. Again, even though I was young and they still had the, some authority, but I'm like, no, you can't tell me what to do, right? And that will bring maybe a loss of support from your family. That might bring an ostracizing of you as, okay, then move on in my house. You say anything, you beat men. And so those things happen even in the nucleus of the family. So you can't say, oh, why should Iran speak back, right? You can't just talk to them anyhow. That's a sovereign nation. They have a right. Only in the United Nations, all of these countries are equal. Yes, America has a bigger military might. Yes, they have a bigger economy. But when they go to the UN, they all have one vote, apart from the Security Council. So the technical aspect is that we are all countries. So you treat the other country with the same respect that you want to be treated. So to say that, oh, they shouldn't speak back when America says something, that's not right. But again, on your point about the mansion, I did a calculation. $7,800 is what ministers were making. Over 6 years, he wasn't there for 6 years, but I just calculated it for 6 years. That's $560,000 US. I don't believe if you look at the wealth that he has, that's $560,000 worth of wealth, excluding what because he had to eat, he had to pay children's school fee, he had to do medical, and so he didn't take the whole $561,000 and just invested in his mansion, right? He paid other things. That thing you're drinking real good. He paid tax, right? So he didn't get the whole 561. So again, the point I try to make is if he had told the LACC what he was worth at the start, as the law says that every official of government that has decision-making power should do, it's easier for the LACC to be able to say, look, here is how much this man was worth in 2018 when he took office. Here is what he's worth now. We calculated his salary, and we can see very clearly how he would have been able to invest that money, and that money would have grown to this level. But if you don't have the benchmark, and you guys are the business owners, well, we're all business owners. If you don't have a benchmark against which to measure growth, it's hard to know how the growth came about, because there's no benchmark. You can't say, oh, Mr. Gaiman's company has grown by 100%, but we don't know what the value was 10 years ago. So you can't say it grew 100% in 10 years, but we don't know the baseline value. And that is the mistake that governments are making. This man, George Weah, did it. Joseph Boakai is doing the same thing, and they need to stop it. They need to get their officials to declare their assets. There's a reason why. And then LACC, so LACC might just be toothless. The UP people can be cussing this lady all they want, and I hope the Supreme Court will get involved and hold some of them in contempt. But at the end of the day, because they've set the precedents already with Prophet Key, at the end of the day, you cannot be tracking these people for not doing their job when you don't give them the tools to do their job.
The Supreme Court don't hold anybody in government responsible. They only hold
No, they say people causing the woman they say they're causing a woman at LACC. So I say they say man causing bad. So if they're causing a woman as somebody man, so they should hold that person in contempt like causing somebody man. That's what I'm saying, because that's man causing another crime.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've been on fire. 2 guys off point and 2 guys on point. So since I'm the king over here, I determine who wins.
He's spoken like a true Trumpist.
Yeah, I know. I'm a Liberian Supreme Court Chief Justice.
Yeah, you're a Trumpist. You know, you guys believe you're the George.
No, this is
what's the thing is about George, prosecutor and executor, or whatever they call it.
Yeah, listen. They say focus on Liberia. We're on Liberia. Why are you not talking about your Chief Justice that summons Prophet Key, indict Prophet Key, did all of that and sent him to jail for 6 months? You talking about him? Why are you talking about Trump? This is focus on Liberia. This is not focus on America.
But we've been focusing on Iran, though.
No, we're talking about world event. We can talk about that. But ladies and gentlemen, we got one more subject here to talk about.
Citizenship.
Huh?
Why don't do the citizenship?
That's what I'm coming to. The citizenship, guys.
Start with Tao, please.
Let's go to the citizenship thing. It says citizenship or citizenship. Excuse the language. I'm just saying. Sometimes I'm a Bassa man. Sometimes my pronunciation gets in the way. Listen, Mr. Tao, in 1847, the black folks, well, actually 1822, 1821, 1827, when the black folks were making the claim in the United States that, listen, this place does not belong to us. We need a state of our own. And there were some thinkers that said, well, maybe we should send them to the state of Oklahoma. Some say the state of Kansas as a home for the blacks. And other thinkers were saying, no, if you send them to Kansas, they would be red among our midst. And these people here, they will spread the ends and they will come after us. So why don't we just send them out, send them back to Africa so they can be with their own folks? That was the genesis of Liberia, and the folks finally decided, for those who are willing to go, those who can afford to go, we will help you relocate from Maryland, from Louisiana, you name it. And they did. The objective there was that when you get there, you want to make sure that you have a state that you can govern. And now you will become the governors. So here we are. The background is, well, for us to lead this nation, we need something written. And they got together and they wrote the Constitution right at Harvard. But one of the things that the black thinkers insisted on is that when you give us this land, when we acquire this land and develop this land, it has to belong to us and us alone. Dark-skinned people, we do not want you colonizers coming later on and taking it after we have made it better. So to put in this clause that citizenship of the Republic of Liberia is reserved for only people of African descent, the Negro race. That was then. Let's fast forward 204 years later, from 1822 to 2026, 204 years. Is that clause still relevant now that the dark skin like you and myself came to the United States and Great Britain, we became citizens, we are investing, they are taking our investment and reinvesting it and making money. Why are we doing the reverse? Is that clause still legit? Tao?
Okay. So look at what happened here. We have to look at the context under which this was done and the intent. And what was the condition at that time? And does the condition still exist? And that is how I would look at it. And when they came to Liberia, they came as colonizers. So we have to actually specify that even though so-called Congo people, children of descendants, don't want to admit to that, they were colonizers. They came in, they colonized, they came in, they made vibrant trade in the southeast between the Crews and the Bassos and the Portuguese and the Grebels and the Day on the other side. And they were helped by the American military. America brought 2 gunboats, especially the Crew War, and they bombed and that is how they dislodged. And then they were able to take along the coast all the way to Maryland, all of these places, because they wanted that trade route to control that. Because as a state, as they were setting, they have come with a Western predatory behavior. So, but this is what I would say. So when it came in, the goal was, we found this place, we are not strong enough. So we have to put something in place that restrict anyone that is not, because the fear was not the indigenous that they met there. Their fear was not at that moment other Africans. Their fear were people who did not look African, right? So that is why they said only Negro and descendant Negroes or Africans. Because much later you will see the fight. But so if they were not strong enough, and because they came in and wanted to dominate, they did not create a condition to be inclusive. They did not create a condition. You know, the Lebanese people stuff that we have today, Indians and Lebanese, dominating the stuff. These people themselves, they were not kind of business people. We still have the same thing happening. These were people that left from the plantation themselves, completely lost, went in and claiming with the Western arrogance, claiming to be some kind of nation builders. They failed miserably. We can see the outcome. We have the same thing repeating. Bunch of clowns. We sit over here. Some of all came here willingness, some of them came up from the war. We never ran a single government, not even any council, with the same Western arrogance. We claiming that we can run the country. And we're seeing the same thing repeat itself. The same colonization is going on. Just that now it's so-called native people children who are not native in mentality and interest anymore. But they were not strong, so they put that clause in. They didn't develop the population, it was small. So they decided to work with the Lebanese and the Indians, gave them the business to create buffer. The Congos that were found on the slave, they brought them and they put them in between. They relegated the indigenous to the background. Now, let's look at today. The whole economy of that country is not in the hands of the Liberians. Every aspect of the little mode of production and commerce is not in the hands of indigenous Liberians. Are you telling me that then we should say we open it up for Lebanese and Indians and Pakistanis and all these people to be citizens? That they can actually not get involved in your political system with the economic might that they have? So this is how we have to look at this. So when Ellen, then who for 50 years are responsible for destroying the country, they were the vessels used by the West. And when she even took over, she even put in place all these kind of stupid rules and salary structure that is further destroying the country. To stand over there in a country that is serious, this old lady is supposed to get arrested and dealt with. But for her to talk and say these kind of things, when she came there, what kind of empowerment did she create for the Liberian people? Jerome, if you are not strong enough and you have your house and somebody stronger than you and you have not put in place the methods in which you can actually deter them from trying to take over, will you invite them into your house and you write that you have equal ownership to this house? No, you're not going to do that, because sooner than later you'll see you and your children out on the street. So yes, the condition upon which that was written, even though it was not meant for us, just like the American Liberian felt that they were not strong enough so to protect themselves, they put that clause in. The indigenous Liberian population to this extent were not strong enough. That is the only one thing that is actually protecting the whole country from being taken over. And so it is necessary for it to be in it until at some point, if we can have a government that the Liberianization that they talk about to develop, take over, have a huge stake in the economic model of the country and decisions and clout, then maybe at some point you can look at it, because when you open that, then you have the methods and the process in place to control. Here in the US, why you think they had that in there? But as the US get weaker and they see threat to whites, what are they doing? They're not trying to reverse that, because they understand it. That if they let that stay in there as they get weaker, they can get taken over. And they can already see the threat. So you see them reversing a lot of the immigration stuff. They're even trying to reverse birthright citizenship. They're trying to reverse a whole bunch of stuff. We are at that same level. We're not strong enough. We cannot allow the Indians and the Lebanese and the Chinese and all the Arabs, and we can't allow them to take over. That they can just come in, they can just become citizens. These people will work together and they will displace the Africans in that area. If you look at Ghana, Ghana they have that because they have the structure in place and they have stuff in place and they have government to some extent that is working. That even though that is there, there are clauses in it that still place some level of limitation. So that is why you can see that we should not be fooled. So that Liberia become a state in the future where the indigenous Africans have no place.
Thank you. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Victor Namwe has a son.
I know. I wanted to ask what he wanted to do, but that's
yeah, your wife is watching. So you have a son by the name of Emmanuel Kouate, a strong supporter of CNC, son of J. Victor Namwe. I'm watching live. He live in Dupo Road, Monrovia.
Oh,
your
yeah.
wife, all the time your wife over there, she didn't know.
Yeah.
You had this kid by a Mandingo girl and you didn't say anything. Now Kouate is over there waiting for you.
No, that's a son of boy. We're going Kwate, J. Emmanuel Kwate. He's my strong UPP brother. He's one of the young leaders in the UPP. I'm glad he's watching. He lives in the Duporo area. But yeah, Kwate and us, we do a lot of stuff together. You know, when we're in town, you know, we hang out. So I'm glad he's watching.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I wanted, your take on this as a revolutionary person who has a deep knowledge of the country, the struggle. What is your take on this citizenship clause?
Look, this is not a question. I don't think this is a question that whose answer comes very easily. I think it requires. Have we been thinking about it for a long time? Yes, I think the constitution we're using now, I think, was revised in 1986. So we've had enough time to think on this matter. And I appreciate the argument people are making that you have to take into account, the our cultural mosaic. Yeah, there were indigenous people in Liberia before 1822, but those who settled and founded, you know, current day Liberia, helped found current day Liberia, were descendants of slaves who were subjugated and debased and suppressed, by the Caucasians. And so, having taken those people in and now turning around to say, it's about time we allow these same people, set of people to come in and equally yoke with us. It's a it's a big ask, but I think, again, at the time the Constitution was being written, you got to take that into context, given all that I've said. I think, at today's world, I think it has no place for um, this kind of constitutional apartheid segregation. I mean, we also champion the eradication of apartheid in South Africa. I know I went to school with a number of South Africans and Sudanese who carry Liberian passports. We give those people sanctuary. We give them a home to come from and go on and fight a liberation struggle. So I think it's hypocritical for us to have done all of that and now turn around and say, white people cannot be a part of, or people of non-Negro descent cannot be a part of Liberia. I think first of all, it deprives us of critical investment that a country could use right now. How is this done? Other countries have done it. I think we can go out to where it has been done and take some lesson from there. I can speak specifically here for the US. There are guardrails here in the US. There are certain things, even though you are a natural live citizen, there are limitations to your naturalization. Um, you cannot be president of this country, for one. Arnold Schwarzenegger, for instance, yeah, he could be governor of California, and that's probably as far as high as he could go. So there are guardrails that can be put in place, but I think to still defend a constitution that is essentially racist, I think it undermines Liberia's long-standing history of fighting for equal rights, around the world. Again, I talk about South Africa, Sudan, even Gambia. I mean, Ghana next door, Nigeria. All of these countries, we went to the UN. Our forebears went to the UN and the League of Nations, and made representations that it is wrong to exclude any race from full participation in any country based on their race. So I think this argument, like I said again, is a difficult question, but I think I am on the side of those who say it's about time we give it some thought and probably remove it from our constitution because I think it's racist.
Well, 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 ladies and gentlemen, we see here. I have said it that I belong to a client in Grand Bassa, district number 3. We have about 10,000 acres. We call it travel land. Same thing can be said about Grand Gile, Boko Gile, Barabo. We claim that these lands should not be developed. It should not be owned by any white person or any foreigners. But as our population decline in these areas, politics and land ownership have become an osmosis where the space has to be filled, the void has to be filled, and it will be filled by somebody. In the southeast, you find the Burkinabe, the Ghanaian, the Ivorian, they are encroaching on our land. We got no law to govern them. We are losing everything. So don't you think, Mr. Namwe, don't you think it would make sense that we begin to monetize and bequeath the wealth to our children by coming up with sensible laws that will say, listen, we are losing the land anyway. The Burkina Faso, the foreigners are coming, they are digging up our minerals, they are taking it away, free. So why don't we monetize our land to some degree where our children and children's children can benefit, other than say, we would rather lose the land to other black folks than benefit our grandchildren. What is your, let me go to, I just came for you, let me go to Dr. Booty. Dr. Booty, you are from the Southeast. I know your grandparents got tons of land there that now Burkina Bees are using, other folks are using. You are not benefiting. So why don't we take this land, this law to benefit our people?
Oh my God, it's a given. Sometimes you make me laugh. I'm
Please,
hoping that your
please
your
laugh.
son.
It's good for your system. Get it out of your system.
We're hoping that one of your sons will be listening from Logan Town soon, so at least we can tell your wife too that you got some son in that brother she know about. But anyway, look, no, my granddad bought most of his land in Ganta, so that's where we have properties. And there are no Burkina bees on our land. So no, no. But look, in terms of the law itself, in 2018, I think before President Weir signed the Land Rights Act, he flirted with the idea of reversing or changing this clause in our constitution, or supporting the change, because you need a referendum or a constitutional resolution or whatever. Yeah, but and I wrote an opinion piece in a newspaper that existed at the time called the Bush Chicken, and said no, pass the Land Rights Act. And the reason I said that, if you remember, Kanye and I were talking about the moratorium that we argued for in the Land Rights Act that prevents those who own who will be sitting on customary land from selling their land. Because my fear is, once you allow non-Negroes to become citizens of Liberia, they have the financial strength to be able to buy all of the land, right, in Liberia. And what we will have is a situation that you have in Zimbabwe, a situation that you have in South Africa, a situation that you have in Namibia, and other parts of the kind of southeastern Africa, where most of the land are owned by 2% of the population who are all white. Right, and then you've got the rest of the 90% struggling to make ends meet in their own country. So the evidence from having white citizens in on the continent and access to land has shown us already, and continues to show us, that it doesn't work in terms of an equalizing ability. It creates inequality between the white citizens, who are usually migrants, and the black citizens on the ground. The difference with the US and the difference with Britain and these kind of Western societies is that all of the land were already in land holdings for white people before they gave citizenship to you and me. So before you and I became citizens of these countries, all of the land was spoken for. All of those land, I read somewhere a few years ago, I don't know if it's still true, about 70 something to 80 something percent of privately owned land in the US is owned by white. Right, so it's easy for you to give black men citizenship when you're not going to sell your land to him, because you know that obviously for whatever reason you wouldn't want to sell the land is protected in white ownership. So it's easier to argue for, oh yeah, let black people become citizens as well, because land, and we spoke about this a few weeks ago, will always be one of the most significant contributors to conflict in the world. Right, with rising sea levels, with resources that people need to mine from under the ground, from the ability, global warming, and more land becoming not arable anymore, you will have conflicts over little land that is arable, and that, for that reason, I think if we can come up with a framework that ensures that people who will be granted these citizenships cannot just come in and buy up all of the land in the country, then yes, I'm all for it. But at this moment in time, we've not even thought about that. And I've given you the examples of Namibia and South Africa and Zimbabwe, where we continue to have this conflict because obviously the white owners can afford, because they have the capital to own up all the land. I think it's a conversation that we need to have. I'm all for changing it. I have no issues with changing the rules. However, it has to be done in a way that it doesn't disenfranchise Black Liberians, especially indigenous Liberians who've been on the ground. So we have to have an open, honest conversation. How do we do this, right, in a way that doesn't disenfranchise people who don't have the financial? Because again, there is no way an ordinary Liberian who owns 20 acres of land will be struggling to eat, right? He's struggling, he's hungry, right? And then Nangbe comes to him and says, look, I'll pay you $1,000 per acre. And he's interested. And some white guy comes in, I'll pay you $5,000 an acre. He's not selling his land to Nangbe, right? Because, and that is my fear, and that is the fear of a lot of us who have, and again, I'm not, I think we should. I'm definitely for it. However, because I don't think that if you look at some people, like some of our Lebanese brothers and sisters who've been in our country from, the Congo, Guinea, and saying hair was a pop. These people have been there. They've contributed to the country. They speak the colloquial more than some of us.
And they don't know what that expression mean anymore, Doctor. But they just say it. They don't know what it mean anymore.
I don't even know what it means. I just say it because we all want to be like Amen. And
I'm coming to you. Mr.
No,
Tower.
put your hand down, Mr. Tower. You're not doing that too, but I think I was in class to speak. Oh, yeah,
Listen,
so the point is, let me learn.
Yeah. 1 minute. You remember the African Cup? There was a guy that Lola Patrick Lumumba. He put his hand on the entire game, and then people thought he was fake, but it was a real human being. And the guy took.
Because you were drinking acid water that it gave me special energy when but no, I think look, it is my disappointment with President Sirleaf is that she needs to go and find somewhere to sit down, right? She has already crossed enough. No, honestly, I don't like the woman at all. I'll be honest with you. I appreciate and I admire.
Like the message, like the messenger.
Let me learn before you say that. I like and appreciate her achievements. She's done great things as an individual, but she also done great horrible things as an individual. And I don't like her at all, right? I don't like her. She had 12 years to have this conversation. 12. She never had the conversation. 12 years, 10 years later, or 8 years later, now you want to have the conversation when you're almost in your grave, right? Don't leave it with us. We who still got time to live, let us have that conversation. You're almost going, so don't come and be saying nonsense around here, trying to be relevant when you are irrelevant at this particular moment in time, right? You had 12 years. If you really wanted to solve this issue, you had 12 years to do it. Have the conversation. Have an open conversation with people across the country. Let us tell you what we think, and then we can maybe do a referendum and vote on it. But you didn't do that. You waited 8 years later when you, who know, maybe 2 days from now, however you come and go, then you want to put a burden on us that you will not be here to carry. So she should find somewhere to sit down.
Great. Let me go to Tower. Tower, before you come in, let me read this. It says, almost all African nations allow citizenship regardless of race. A citizenship law typically is based on birth, descent, or naturalization, and not skin color. Kenya, Gabon, Ivory Coast, and Senegal have historically welcomed white professionals as citizens. Is a notable exception. Liberia is a notable exception with a constitution that limits citizenship to people of African descent. They are the only country that is written in law that citizenship is only for people of African descent. Everybody else around us are benefiting. Your take. You want to?
Yeah. So let me address something quick. Veronica Lewis, I think she's watching.
Yes.
Look. The free slaves were not educated. No, their education was limited with respect to understanding other people and running a nation. And the proof is right there in Liberia for us to see. These are people that came from the plantation. I know from the Louis, you are claiming to be some kind of descendant, and you always want to come here. And that is a problem that we have in Liberia. Whenever something is wrong in our history that we have to correct, the group that belong that or as affiliate or belong to that failed group or the group in question will want to come and defend it. If we come to Congo people, the so-called Congo descendants want to come and defend the crimes for over 100 years that were committed by the people. Or If it is so-called native people, they want to defend the failure of when they took over the country, what they should have done that they didn't do. Or when they come to the progressive, they want to also believe only in slogans that they were not united. They had no sense of direction that was clear because we saw in a division, in an inner fight, that internal fight on everybody wanted to become president. We have to get to this place where we have to identify where we are going wrong, no matter which group you belong to or affiliate with. Let us point it out. So then with that, we can all come together and be able to say, you know what? Yeah, we identify this, but look, let us move in this direction as a unified front. This is what we must learn how to do. Let us commit to nation instead of groups and individuals and cults. Let us do this. But having said that, look, I heard apartheid and I heard all of this stuff and racist. You see how we do things in Liberia or in Africa? Apartheid. What was apartheid? And what were its practices? Here are a group of minorities that came in and enslaved the people who owned their own land, murdered them for over 100 years, displaced them, took their land. Is that what we are doing to Indians and Lebanese and Chinese and whites and Arabs in Liberia? Is that what we are doing? Do we have special quarters that they can live in? Do we give them pass for them to move around? Are they removed from operating in the economy? So for us to be making it, you see, this is the problem with Africans. We think that somehow we have to be moral. And our choice of morality have to always be against our interest and our very existence. That our loyalty, when it comes to morality, will always be in the interest of somebody else. And when you look at the rest of the world, their honesty and their morality and everything else is generated and powered by their own interest in the survival of their people. When we mention America, everybody jump on us, but the crimes are there. You think you will open this country up? Look, Malcolm says something that we cannot unite with anybody else unless we learn to unite with ourselves first. It was relevant then and it's relevant now. We must first in Liberia consolidate as a nation, have a clear sense of unity and direction. We must control the whole system in a way that we are strong enough. People want to mention the US and the UK. What power do we have in the US? Here are people who are here are free slaves in this country, that they are actually de-land, just like that the Buddha pointed out, that the land ownership is already belong to whites. You know about Tulsa, Oklahoma, when the blacks decided for them to even build, they said, okay, you know what, we are going to move and build our own place. What did the whites do? Anytime you build, they came to destroy everything. Rosewood in Florida, New Orleans, where I went to school, when the black people had that whole place, you know what the federal government did? They came and passed interstate in the whole area, destroyed the entire black industry. These are the people that we are talking about. You think the Lebanese are your brothers? You think, see how they treat and they talk about you. So this is not about hating somebody. We own the country, and we are saying we are looking the future. Let us not make this mistake. This is bigger than we think. Our people are defined and they're attached to land. If we make that mistake and we don't prepare ourselves so we can be strong enough before we even move in that, this is not a conversation we should even be having. This should stay behind the conversation we'll be having is, how do we run a better government? How do we build industries? How do we prepare our young people and the generation born so that we can face the future ahead? These are the areas that we should focus on. Nobody's stopping the Lebanese from going anywhere. Nobody's stopping them from doing business. Nobody denying them anything. They don't have to be citizens in Liberia. We are not strong enough for that. Please let us recognize this.
Thank you.
Let me no. I'm about
Let me just say something quickly
1 minute.
before
1 minute.
Mr.
I'm
Tao.
coming to it, Dr. Booty. Go ahead. Go
Brother
ahead. Real
Booty,
quick.
give me
We
a
got.
minute.
wait,
I think Tao spoke to me directly. I want to address what
yeah.
he said.
Look,
We
I'm about
coming.
to
Guys,
land
we got set. We got 5 minutes left. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I'm about to land real quick. Land ownership in America is completely different from how you own land. In Houston, in Texas, here, a place called Anahuac. It's a waterfront in the Gulf. We learned about that place. That place was being sold for a lot of money. We went ahead, we scouted the place out. We saw that at some point the place would develop. We did not go to no bank because we knew that going to bank, because I had the experience before, we became our own bank. We bought the place. It was 7 acres, the whole waterfront, all the way in the back with a natural pond on it. The place was valued at about $50,000 because it's empty land. Our property tax was very small. All of a sudden, they were about to do something there, and then they checked and said, "Who owned the land?" They saw the names of people who don't resemble white. The value of our land jumped from 50,000 to 1.5 million. I'm not talking about last, I'm talking about 2 years ago. It was a fight. We had to go, all of a sudden, we have to start paying $350,000 in property tax. But I'm just saying the land ownership in the West, you can compare, it's a deceptive criminal stuff. So what happened? We had to go, started to fight with them. You go to their own court, you can't win. What happened? The next, we went ahead, we argued throughout, we tried to get a lawyer, we paid the first stuff. The next year, it jumped to 3 million. They forced us out. Look, when we speak about this system, I've dealt in the system on a corporate level, from the technical area, from the scientific area, from the business area. If I tell you some of the stuff that we have encountered in doing stuff and the way in which it systematically falls non-whites out, you can compare the two. So we shouldn't look at this model that is fake on the surface for us to try to project it into Liberia or into Africa. Please, let us not make this mistake.
Thank you. Dr. Booty, you want to make a correction? And then you're
Yeah,
closing.
no, I just wanted to add something quickly. I wanted to say that, look, just on the apartheid thing, which I agree with Mr. Tower, and I think Liberians should stop using that word because it's abusive to the people in South Africa who actually experienced apartheid, right? Because at the end of the day, if you look at how, and this is not me trying to denigrate anyone, it's just the facts. If you look at how our Lebanese, Indian, Arabs, Chinese brothers live in Liberia, they have more power, even as non-citizens, than citizens themselves, right? So giving them citizenship wouldn't add any more power to the power they already enjoy. Yeah, the only thing it would add is the legitimacy to grab as much properties and land as they want without having to maybe marry some Liberian girl so that they can put the property in her name and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, don't do that. That is so horrible to compare what Black Africans in South Africa experience with what our non-Black brothers in Liberia experience. Because again, they are living large. They are living way better than most of us. We are spectators. People keep saying it. We keep forgetting those statements. We're spectators in our own economy, even though the non-white people, Black people, are not citizens, right? So at the end of the day, let's just be careful with the words that we use. Language is very important.
Great. Thank you very much, guys. We have come to the end of our show. We're gonna go, I'm coming. I'm coming. Yeah, we're going to go around. And your last statement, you can address it, and then we are closing. Yeah, go ahead, Doc.
No, I think Mr. Nango wanted to go.
I said Victor. I'm talking to Victor. Victor, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say this. Listen, I don't argue that we have to be careful with what the law allows and it doesn't allow, or what we push for the law to allow. Apartheid, yes, maybe a strong word for today, but that was the concept, separate but equal, and that of course was extended to the extreme to which it did in South Africa. But how can you come to Canada and be a citizen of Canada and don't want a Canadian to be a citizen of Liberia or US or UK or China or wherever? I don't know if it happens in China, but I think it's hypocritical. And I don't understand what the argument is. I think what the problem is our laws. Yes, we can go back to the law. I think Mrs. Sirleaf And I'm not a fan, but I agree with her on most of what she said. She talked about looking at the concept of eminent domain. All of this land that is lying around, maybe we can, as Jerome said, maybe we can take some money and monetize it. You know, people own large tracts of land and they don't even live in Liberia. They just go home and every night and the land is there. You can't touch it. And the country needs development. It needs investment. And so all I'm saying is, let's look at the laws again. I think it's about time we looked at that. I think it's hypocritical for you to be here or you be in Britain, and maybe you are a citizen of Britain now or the UK, or some of us. I am not yet, but my wife is. My children are Americans. How can I tell Americans not to become Liberians? I mean, what is the basis on which I'll be making that argument? I think it's hypocritical. Reciprocity. You can't expect a Lebanese to say you can become a Lebanese in Beirut, or you can go there and make that argument and tell them they can't be citizens. And I think we should start looking at it in terms of Indians and Lebanese. I don't think those are the only people who want to be Liberians. There are other Caucasian people from Europe, other parts who want to be Liberians. So I think what the law is, the way it is on the books, I think is racist. I think in this day and age, we shouldn't have any law on the books that will say certain color of skin is barred from being a Liberian. I think that's the point that I'm making. Like you said, Dr. Booty, most of these things that we have on the books, they're empty on the books because those things that they seek to prevent are always already happening in Liberia anyway. Lebanese, they go and marry a Liberian girl and get kids, and through the kid, they have houses, they have tract of land, they can do whatever they want to do. Why do we keep them in the books? To make us look funny and stupid. How can we go to the UN? Right now, we're on the Security Council. How can we be sitting at the UN and we, back when in Liberia, we're telling other people of non-Negro descent, you can't be a Liberian? I mean, what is the basis of that argument? So I think it's a flawed argument. I think the Constitution at the time, contextually, it made sense, but at this day and age, no, I think it's wrong. We should take it out.
Thank you. Honorable, let me see here. Taiwo, you're closing. We got 2 minutes.
We are at the UN, and we should not have this kind of stuff. The United States is actually the owner of the UN because their so-called people were behind the establishment, but it's still in the U.S. Constitution and the U.S. Act on it that blacks are 3/5 human. It's still there. They have not changed it, and not only that, they have not changed it. All of the laws they put in place and the way the whole institutional structure, societal structure is set up that way to treat blacks. I'm not talking about even us from somewhere else, but the ones that were brought here, that built the nation, that invented just about everything that you call Western, where from what? The telephone to the GPS to all of this stuff. It's there. 3/5 human. Check it, Dr. Booty, check it out. 3/5 human. What we are saying here is not about who becomes citizen or not. It is about one to say you come to Australia. Do you have the power that the Booty just put in here? The whole land ownership in all these places that we're talking about is already in hand of whites. So what you have is just lease. Like I just gave my own scenario here. When we bought it, it was just like lease. It was taken from us. They forced you out. So what they have as land ownership is a front. That is the point that we are making. So we're not, so unless and they are strong enough as a group, and we're talking about immigration, we are seeing it here, man, in this day and age. As they lose power and they get weaker, what is the thing? Immigration, that they don't want other people to continually be. What did they do? They suspended all immigrant visa because they don't want any more immigrants. Because now they see the competition, they see the threat against their very survival. The evidence is there. Let us not make this mistake. Some of this stuff, we should just say, hey, I don't want to talk, but look, we should not make this mistake. This is serious business. Land is what defines a people. You see the Fula people, you see them moving all over the place. They want you to come set up Fulani army here to go to this other place because they don't have a land that is set up of their own. So you see them scattered all over the place. If we are not careful, that is what will happen in Liberia. The Lebanese men marry a Liberian, have a child. Guess what? You're having children that are Liberian, that were born, raised in Liberia. Even if they're mixed, their mentality and everything else will be Liberian. Just like when we have our children here, no matter whether we are African, their whole mindset become European. So we lose them because they're actually really Americans. It's going to be the same thing. So as long as they marry a Liberian and then the children are born that is in their name, guess what? It's still attached to Liberian in some form. Please let us not make this mistake. I'm appealing to everybody, to the government officials. We have important things that are more important to the Liberian people. Y'all focus on it. Y'all talk to Asla Meta, let them build iron factory. Y'all get with Firestone, you're putting laws that produce rubber products. Let us do things. Those are the areas we should focus. The Lebanese people are not losing their sleep because they are not citizens. They already own the economy and they're running things. You don't give them economic power and then political power at the same time.
Thank you.
Don't do.
Dr. Wood,
let me just quickly before we close. Let me finish that. The 1/5 clause, that 1/5 clause, it was actually 2/3. It was ever since amended. I just want Mr. Tao to know that.
No, it's not amended. It's still there.
Yes, hold on. I'm coming to read it. Well, hold on 1 minute.
It's being repealed.
Let me read it. Let me read it from the U.S. Supreme Court. It says here the U.S. Constitution does not currently count as 3/5 of a person. The 3/5 clause, Article 1, Section 2, was explicitly repealed by Section 2 of the 14th Amendment in 1868, which established that representatives are proportioned by counting the whole number of a person in each and not 3/5. The origins of the purpose in 1787, the clause was compromised regarding slavery, dictating that 3/5 of the slave population would have been counted for both congressional representation and taxation. It was repealed following the Civil War. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery, and the 14th Amendment 1868 replaced the 3/5 rule with a mandate to count the whole person. The modern status, while the original text remains the historical document, it has been constitutionally nullified for 150 years. That's the history. Let's go ahead, Dr. Booty.
All right. So first of all, Mr. Nami, and Mr. Tao touched on it a little bit. If you look at, so last year in November, I got some funding through my consultancy company to run a project in the city that I live in. So basically, just that phrase that Mr. Tao mentioned from Malcolm X, that we need to unite as people to be able to withstand the pressure that we have. So in the UK, for example, there is the rising anti-black, anti-immigrant sentiments that are getting very loud, where asylum hotels, hotels where asylum seekers have been housed, have been fire have been thrown into them. There are riots going on. There are people stabbing people and killing people because of the color. There have been nationwide protests against blackness. So, we're saying that these countries allow blacks to be citizens, but they're ejecting. That's the word. They're trying to eject the same people that you're claiming they're allowing to be citizens now, right? People who have been here for hundreds and hundreds of years, people who were born here, they don't see us as this and this. They see us as one, right? Once the color of your skin is not white, they want you as the rhetoric. And there's a political party that leading in the polls right now called Reform that basically says that all black people are out of this country, right? So you can't tell me that this is the model that you're using for arguing that Liberia should allow people of non-Negro descent to become citizens. The difference with the West is all of the systems of governance are controlled by white people, right? All, not some of them, all of the systems of governance are controlled by them. It's easy for you to appease Mr. Gaiman and yourself with citizenship when that's all you're going to get, because the guardrails are in place. These have been put in place for centuries, right? For centuries upon centuries, racist systems have been put in place to keep you from accessing true power, right? Now, if you look at Liberia, it is not like that. The Lebanese or the non-blacks in Liberia already have the guardrails. They already control the system. A Lebanese businessman can basically tell a Liberian president what laws to pass that favors him, right? So again, giving him citizenship doesn't really alter his positioning, because at the end of the day, they're already using the loophole of marrying Liberian women already. Technically, they're living even way better than ordinary citizens. All we are saying, Mr. Tower and I, is that look, well, what I'm saying is, look, if we want to have this conversation, let's make sure the same way the white people made sure that they had the guardrails in place so that black people can never get the kind of power that they have before allowing us to become citizens. Let's put those guardrails in place for Black Liberians, indigenous Liberians, so that when we do open it up to the when Mr. Nangwe said it, I was laughing, that the Europeans that run into Liberia for citizenship, before they start running to come, let's put those guardrails in place, because I don't know any European that run into that S country that Trump can call them to want to be citizen of that country. I've never seen them yet. In this UK, I've never seen a white British person that say, "Oh, I won't be citizen of Liberia, but your law not allowing me." So, but Mr. Nangwe know a few of them. So yeah, before his friends run to go there, let's put guardrails in place to protect ordinary. Because again, you, Mr. Heyman, you, Mr. Nangwe, myself, and Mr. Tao, we've been blessed financially in terms of exposure that our wealth, our property wealth in Liberia will be protected because we have the knowledge to protect it. We have the financial resources to protect it. Most Liberians don't have that. And those are the people I'm speaking for, not for myself, because I can protect my property with the money that I have and with the opportunities and the people I know. But for most Liberians, they can't. And for those ordinary Liberians, let's put those guardrails in place first. Once they're protected, then yeah, let all Mr. Nangwe friends to come here and be citizens. We'll be with them.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It was nice. And my take on this particular issue is you all got it wrong. Even Joseph Weiger that said God is not making any more new land. What we have here is a broken, failed state. We do not have a judiciary. We do not have an executive per se. Because the laws on the books, if they were enforced, it would have given us confidence to say, yes, we can do this. But as long as we have something called a Liberianization that reserves certain jobs for Liberians, and the Lebanese are fronting, they will bring people, they say you can't sell retail, but they will bring the old ladies to sell retail in front of their store as though it's for them when they pay them on the side. We're having Chinese coming out selling peppers and other things that Liberians should have been doing with nothing, no repercussion. The government, the executive does not have the guts to enforce anything as long as they are getting kickbacks.
That's the point.
That is our problem. This is why no major investors are coming to the country, because you do not have a judiciary that will protect the interest of its own people, much less foreigners. So yes, we can do all we want to do as long as you can write your glossy papers. It looks nice on paper. It is not enforceable. It is fraud, and Liberia is a fraud. I don't care what you say. You take your money to Liberia, they will tell you, come and open your business. Nangwe and I were there. We ran around for 3 weeks. Finally, somebody from the ministry came and said, I can get it for you if you hire us as consultants. This is the country that says Liberians should come home and invest in their own countries. And I remember I'm using the word S. I'm plural. I'm pluralizing the word countries because Liberia belongs. It's maybe 3 or 4 different countries in one. Depending on which one you are in, everything is okay. Depending on being on the other side of the track, you are on your own. And if you are in the middle and you can play ball, you can survive. So Liberia is a failed experiment. It was a farm where people go to harvest, never to plant. And people are harvesting, including Liberians themselves who leave from here only to take the money and bring it back to these United States to pay for their mortgages, pay for their cars, have a great home. When something happens, they run. Get on the next charter flight to come to the United States. Until those things can be done, we are wasting our time. But that's how we say we are all Liberian. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming in. We'll do this again tomorrow. We are all Liberian.
We are Liberian.